Bury Me in a Free Land by Francis Harper, 1825 to 1911. Make me a grave where'er you will, in a lowly plain or a lofty hill. Make it among earth's humblest graves, but not in a land where men are slaves. I could not rest if around my grave I heard the steps of a trembling slave. His shadow above my silent tomb would make it a place of fearful gloom. I could not rest if I heard the tread of a coffle gang to the shambles led, and the mother's shriek of wild despair rising like a curse on the trembling air. I could not sleep if I saw the lash drinking her blood at each fearful gash, and I saw her babies torn from her breast like trembling doves from their parent nest. I'd shudder and start if I heard the bay of bloodhounds seizing their human prey, and I heard the captive plead in vain as they bound afresh his galling chain. If I saw young girls from their mothers' arms bartered and sold for their youthful charms, my eye would flash with a mournful flame, my death-pale cheek grow red with shame. I would sleep, dear friends, where bloated might can rob no man of his dearest right. My rest shall be calm in any grave, where none can call his brother a slave. I ask no monument proud and high to arrest the gaze of the passers-by, and that my yearning spirit craves is bury me not in a land of slaves. Okay, this poem is by Francis Harper. She came from, she was born in Maryland. She was actually born free. She wasn't a slave when she was born. So her parents were free when she was born, and she was born free. And she was an activist for the abolition of slavery. Yeah, she was a poet, she was a teacher, she was also a suffragette for the promoting votes for women, and also she was a member of the Temperance League to persuade people to stop drinking. She's one of the people who promoted the period of prohibition in the United States. So, bury me in a free land. She's here, she's writing and saying, look, for me, the most important thing in my life is that I am buried in a free land, in a land where there is no slavery. Yeah, and she's railing against the injustices and inhumanity of slavery. She says, make me a grave where'er you will. Make me a grave wherever you want. In a lowly plain or a lofty hill. So on a plain, on a hill. Make it among earth's humblest graves. So make it in the most humble place, the lowest place, but not in a land where men are slaves. So bury me anywhere except in a place where men are slaves. I could not rest if around my grave I heard the steps of a trembling slave. So I would not be able to rest even after I had died if I could hear, if there were slaves around me, if this was a country where trembling slavery existed. His shadow above my silent tomb would make it a place of fearful gloom. So the shadow of the slave above her tomb would be really depressing for her. I could not rest if I heard the tread of a coffle gang to the shambles led. So she wouldn't be able to rest even if she was dead, if she heard the paces of a coffle gang. This is a gang of people all chained together. This is like the chain gang, which you may see in the 20th century. But this is a gang of slaves, and they are shambling. They're walking without being able to lift their feet up properly. Yeah, and if I heard a coffle gang, I would not be able to rest. And if I heard the mother's shriek, the mother's cry of wild despair, raised like a curse on the trembling air. So a mother's shriek is where she is separated from her children, where her children are ripped away from her. And this scream of the mother is like a curse, cursing the people who are doing this who are taking her children away. I could not sleep if I saw the lash drinking her blood at each fearful gash. So I would not be able to rest in peace if I saw the whip drinking her blood. I love this. It's a lovely piece of imagery. At each fearful gash. So each time she is hit with the whip, with the lash, yeah, I would not be able to see if I saw the whip drinking her blood. And I saw her babies torn from her breast, like trembling doves from their parent nest. And I would not be able to bear to see her babies, her babes, ripped away from her, yeah, as if they were baby doves, baby birds pulled out of a nest. And here the doves, these echoing the innocence of the babies. And notice, lash, gash, breast, nest, and the whole poem rhymes like that. I'd shudder and start if I heard the bay of bloodhounds seizing their human prey. So I would tremble and jump in my tomb if I heard the baying, the of bloodhounds seizing their human prey. So these bloodhounds are looking for a slave that has escaped. And I'm sure this is a sound that she's heard many a time, with slaves escaping and being chased and caught by bloodhounds. And I heard the captive plead in vain as they bound afresh his galling chain. And I heard the slave who'd been captured again, plead to beg, but without any mercy, as they tied afresh, as they put him in chains again. And galling is something that's galling, is really bitter and upsetting. If I saw young girls from their mother's arms, bartered and sold for their youthful charms, my eye would flash with a mournful flame, my death-pale cheek grow red with shame. So now she's talking about young girls taken away from their mothers and sold and exchanged for their youthful charms. Here she's talking about rape. She's talking about young girls being sold for sex. And I'm sure this was a common thing, slaves being sold for sex, either with their masters or in some type of brothels, or to be used by other slaves. My eye would flash with a mournful flame, so there would be a sad flame in my eye, and my death-pale cheek, my white cheek in death would grow red, would become embarrassed with shame. I would sleep, dear friends, where bloated might can rob no man of his dearest right. So I would like to sleep, my friends, I would like to be buried in a place where blown up, inflated power, bloated might, where great power cannot steal, cannot rob a man of his dearest right. I want to live in a place where nobody can steal the dearest right from a man, his freedom. My rest shall be calm in any grave where none can call his brother a slave. So I will only be able to rest after I die in a grave, where in a land where there is no slavery, where slavery has been abolished. I ask no monument proud and high to arrest the gaze of the passers-by. So I don't want a huge monument for the people who pass by to be able to see that I'm buried here. That's not what I want. I don't want a monument and a beautiful tombstone. All that my yearning spirit craves is bury me not in a land of slaves. So the only thing my desiring spirit wants, to yearn, to want strongly, to crave, to need. So the only thing my spirit needs is to be buried in a land where there are no slaves, is not to be buried in a land of slaves. And that's it. So enough. If you enjoyed the video, give it a rating, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you soon. Bury Me in a Free Land by Francis Harper.